Chapter 321. Lunar True Flame. Xiao Chen casually flipped through the book. Suddenly, a map fell out. Xiao Chen felt it was strange as he picked it up. He discovered that it was a map of the Fire Li sect branch. Xiao Chen's depressed expression immediately vanished. He smiled and said, "There was actually a map hidden inside. I should find the refinery. The refinery is where the true treasures are." After Xiao Chen figured out where he was, his eyes moved over the map quickly, searching for the location of the refinery. Xiao Chen discovered the refinery was about 1,000 kilometers to the northeast. However, that was the straight distance. If he followed the map and moved along the winding corridors, he had to walk another 5 kilometers. Xiao Chen carefully tucked away the map. Then, he threw the introductory book into the universe ring. After all, this book was still quite useful. He should keep it in case he needed it in the future. After Xiao Chen verified his direction, he punched the wall in front of him. When 15,000 kilograms of force struck the thick wall, a human-sized hole appeared. Xiao Chen did not have the patience to walk another 5 kilometers. Furthermore, time waited for no one. If someone arrived ahead of him, it would be possible for him to gain nothing. Since Xiao Chen was only 1 kilometer away as the crow flies, he would use his fists to create a path. As Xiao Chen used his fists to create a path, Wen Yanbin followed the same path Xiao Chen took earlier. When he saw the large number of dismembered iron-armored warriors, he wore an incredibly astonished expression. This is clearly not the work of the silver-armored warrior but the true strength of this person. Should I have followed him? This was the first time Wen Yanbin hesitated over his actions. However, he destroyed so many iron-armored warriors. He must have already exhausted a lot of his strength. I have not exhausted any of mine. If I can attack him while at my peak state, I still have a chance of victory. Wen Yanbin sought another excuse in his heart. Killing intent appeared in his eyes, and he continued down the path. Xiao Chen, doing his best to open a pathway, did not know a group of people followed him. However, even if he knew, he would not care. As long as he remained cautious, it would be fine. The 2 silver-armored warriors covered Xiao Chen's back. He only needed to care about the dangers in front of him. Boom. With the final bits blown through, Xiao Chen had finally reached the refinery. The massive refinery appeared before him, and Xiao Chen's expression turned grave. There were all sorts of secret weapons covered in dust lying on the floor of the refinery. However, with one glance, Xiao Chen could tell most of them were either damaged or incomplete. They were useless. A 3-legged cauldron sat in the middle of the refinery. Carvings of dragons and phoenixes decorated its body. It had the same appearance of the dragon phoenix cauldron on the big bronze doors. Was this the legendary dragon phoenix cauldron? There were 4 clumps of white fire in the cauldron. They floated within and chilled one to the bone. They did not radiate any light. Were these the legendary lunar true flames? However, these were not the reason Xiao Chen's expression turned grave. Instead, it was because a person had rushed in from the front. The other party had discovered Xiao Chen's presence. His expression was equally grave. Duhau. After Xiao Chen saw the other party's appearance, he exclaimed in surprise. He had chased after Chu Chaoyun. Why was he here? The techniques this person had executed in the fight against the Scarlet Flame Chief left a deep impression on Xiao Chen. Although Duhau's cultivation was only superior grade marital saint and had not reached the peak yet, Xiao Chen did not dare underestimate him. Compared to a high-profiled and flashy person, this person's personality and martial techniques belonged to the silent type with sudden outbursts. His strength could not be underestimated. Otherwise, Duan Muqing would not have chosen this person to help kill the Scarlet Flame Chief. Duhau raised his head and looked at Xiao Chen. His sullen face revealed a grave expression. He asked, "Are you here for the lunar true flames and dragon phoenix cauldron? Could these lunar true flames and dragon phoenix cauldron be real?" From this person's words, he seems to understand them well. There is no harm in hearing him out. Xiao Chen slowly walked forward and smiled. "Are the lunar true flames and dragon phoenix cauldron real?" Duhau instantly knew that Xiao Chen did not understand the origins of these lunar true flames. However, there was no trouble in telling him. Perhaps he could avoid an unnecessary fight. Naturally, they cannot be real. The dragon phoenix cauldrons in the Fire Li sect branches are fake. However, they were necessary for refining secret treasures. The lunar true flames are just 4 strands extracted from the lunar origin flame. Your purple flames are of the yang attribute. The lunar true flames are extreme yin flames, they would be useless to you. The dragon phoenix cauldron is a fake, I imagine you would not need it either. You can have all the secret treasures laying on the ground. I only want the cauldron and the flames. What do you think? Duhau looked at Xiao Chen as he suggested in a soft voice. Although many of the secret treasures filling the ground were damaged, there were a large number of them. It would not be difficult to find a few complete secret treasures. To a regular person, choosing the secret treasures would be more worth it. After all, as long as the secret treasures were not severely damaged, they could be sold for spirit stones. Xiao Chen smiled faintly. "What if I made the same choice as you?" Duhau laughed softly and said in a sullen voice, "Since I can guess your choice already, we can only fight." After Duhau spoke, he pushed off the ground and soared through the air. He leapt over the tall dragon phoenix cauldron and twisted his body mid-air, sending a sweeping kick at Xiao Chen. When Duhau kicked, a strong wind blew. A loud clap of thunder rang through the air. Xiao Chen's expression did not change. He was not afraid. Regarding physical strength, he had never been afraid to compete. Xiao Chen stepped forward with his right foot and circulated the dragon and tiger body sculpting art. The illusion of a tiger and dragon circled his body. Then, there was a roar as he punched toward the sweeping kick with his right fist. Boom. When the fist and leg met, it generated an intense explosion. A horrifying shockwave spread from the two, blowing away all the damaged secret treasures on the ground. Duhau's body quickly spun in the air. Without landing, he sent out another kick. He moved through the air and shouted. "Interesting. My fierce tiger leaving the mountains can now achieve a force of 20,000 kilograms. The other party's physical body is stronger than Wen Yanbin's. He is not far from me. Logically, my fist could knock him down. However, the other party seems to have grasped an exquisite defensive technique. Not only did he neutralize my force, but he also turned it around and added his own strength. When he combined in his strength, the kick grew even more ferocious. Then, we shall see how long your technique can last." Xiao Chen shouted and took a step, moving to the side. Xiao Chen moved in a semi-circle, avoiding this sharp kick. He moved the Duhau's side and punched at his waist. Duhau's expression was calm. When he saw the position Xiao Chen moved to in an instant, he quickly withdrew his move and spun another round in the air. The force of the earlier kick increased again. Duhau's right leg was hook-like as he brought it down toward Xiao Chen's head. Xiao Chen ended up punching the air, causing the air to tremble and ripple. At this moment, it was too late to dodge. Xiao Chen could only block. He pulled back his right leg and moved his arms into a crossguard above his head. Bang! The huge force was like a small mountain crushing down. Xiao Chen did not move at all, but the stone floor on which he stood could not withstand this horrifying pressure. The ground cracked and burst. Pieces of the broken floor flew into the air, heading for the ceiling of the refinery. Duhau quickly withdrew his leg while midair and spun back. Xiao Chen shouted, and his aura exploded, shattering the flying pieces of the floor. Dragon hisses, tiger roars. A tiger and dragon flew out from behind Xiao Chen. The dragon hissed, and the tiger roared. When accompanied, their auras rose. Duhau had just landed, but Xiao Chen's fist was already at his face. There was simply no time to dodge. Hu Kai. Duhau quickly stepped back and extended his 5 fingers. Then, he slapped Xiao Chen's wrist. Xiao Chen's peak punch carried 25,000 kilograms of force. It moved with astonishing speed. Like a high-speed cargo train, its speed and strength were at its peak. However, when Duhau slapped Xiao Chen's wrist, he easily pushed away Xiao Chen's howling fist. This changed the direction of his fist's wind. 200 grams moving 500 kilograms, this was the move Duhau used against the Scarlet Flame Chief. When he used it against Xiao Chen, it had a similar effect. Xiao Chen instantly felt a force pulling him forward. Because his momentum was too strong, he could not stop. After slapping away Xiao Chen's attack, Duhau smoothly slid over and arrived behind Xiao Chen. As Duhau looked at Xiao Chen, who would not pull back, he clenched his fist and exploded with a horrifying force. This force scattered in all directions as the fist headed for Xiao Chen's back without hesitation. If this fist struck Xiao Chen, he would probably end up like the Scarlet Flame Chief. This was a critical moment. Xiao Chen maintained his calm and thought very quickly, thinking of a way to deal with this. Xiao Chen's forward momentum was too strong. It was too problematic to turn around or move to the side. It was likely that, before he could adjust his position, the opponent's fist would land the hit. Xiao Chen was still not sure exactly how strong Duhau's fist was. However, he was sure that it was no less than 15,000 kilograms of force. Boom. At the critical moment, Xiao Chen punched the ground violently. Boom. 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 A total of 25,000 kilograms of force crashed into the ground. It was as if a mountain had landed on the ground. The entire refinery shook. The floor around Xiao Chen broke, and countless rocks flew into the air. It, fortunately, blocked Duhau. Bang! His fist's wind broke all the rocks into dust and scattered them everywhere. The rocks had successfully helped Xiao Chen to delay Duhau by a breath. Although the time was short, to Xiao Chen, who had neutralized his momentum, it was sufficient to avoid Duhau's attack. Windwalk Shoes, activate. Azure Dragon Cloud Soaring Art, Azure Dragon Tail Whip. The Windwalk Shoes instantly activated, and Xiao Chen executed the Azure Dragon Cloud Soaring Art. He was like a flood dragon moving in a purple arc. He appeared 200 meters away in an instant. Boom. Xiao Chen vanished. Duhau's punch shattered all the rocks, and he rushed over. However, he only hit an afterimage. His punch landed on empty air. Xiao Chen turned and took out the lunar shadow saber from the universe ring. Xiao Chen watched as Duhau stepped out of the dust. He placed his right hand on the saber hilt. Xiao Chen had to admit, regarding close combat, Duhau far surpassed him. Out of all the people Xiao Chen had seen, only Mu Heng, who had focused on turning the body into a saber, was the equivalent. However, Xiao Chen's true strength lay in saber techniques and not close-quarter combat. When he exchanged moves with Duhau, he only tried to expand his horizons. Take the secret treasures on the ground and leave. After I draw my saber, you will no longer stand a chance. Xiao Chen warned softly. The two of them had no enmity with each other, there was no need to fight to the death. Duhau's lips curled up into a cold smile. What big words, I want to see what it means to no longer stand a chance. Scarless autumn water. After Duhau spoke, he shouted and leapt into the air. He quickly circled Xiao Chen. It was as if he were an autumn stream, flowing quickly through the air, leaving behind countless afterimages. When the afterimages layered on each other, it looked like a blurry river with gentle ripples. So, Duhau has comprehended the state of water. No wonder he is so confident. Xiao Chen thought to himself. However, this state is recently formed. It is quite inferior to Duan Muqing, Murong Chong, and the others. In front of Xiao Chen's holy might-infused state of thunder, how could it stand a chance? Boom! A loud crack of thunder resounded in the refinery. The instant the thunder crackled, the tiny stream splashed up uncontrollably. The instant the thunder reverberated, the lunar shadow saber quickly released from its scabbard. It was like a flash of lightning. The purple saber chi struck Duhau, whose state was suppressed. Bang! A horrifying wound appeared on Duhau's chest as he landed heavily on the ground. Disbelief filled his face. His opponent had completely suppressed his state. Duhau only had to execute a killing move that could turn the situation around. However, he was stopped midway. How hateful! Xiao Chen walked softly and sheathed his lunar shadow saber. He did not even look at Duhau as he headed for the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron and lunar true flames in the refinery. Duhau, who was on the ground, watched Xiao Chen coldly after he bandaged his wounds. He said, "Even if you have defeated me, you will not take possession the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron and lunar true flames. Chu Chaoyun, who subdued the gold-armored warrior, is not someone you can deal with. He defeated the 9 of us. When he arrives, you will not stand a chance." This person's mentality was easily understandable. It was a sour grapes mentality. He did not wish others to obtain what he could not. Hence, even though he failed, he used this reasoning to console himself. Xiao Chen cast his gaze on the 4 strands of lunar true flame. He did not even turn his head as he said indifferently, "That is not something for you to worry about." Duhau saw that Xiao Chen ignored him, and he snorted coldly. He casually picked up several dozens damaged secret treasures from the ground and left the refinery the way he came. The state of thunder had infused in Duhau's wound. This stopped the injury from healing quickly. It seems like his fortuitous encounter in the Fire Li sect had come to an end. Xiao Chen stared at the 4 clumps of white flakes floating in the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron without blinking. The flames gave off no light, they looked very pale. Each clump was about the size of a fist. They floated quietly above the mouth of the cauldron. When the wind blew, they swayed gently. As Ao Jiao once told Xiao Chen, there were 4 kinds of strange flames in this world: human flame, ghost flame, dragon flame, and heavenly flame. Of which, the ghost flame had 2 types. One had been found in the mysterious Yin cave, and the other was the living hell's 9 layers of purgatory. Xiao Chen suspected that the probability of the lunar true flame being the ghost flame from the mysterious Yin cave was high. The 4 clumps of white flame in front of Xiao Chen were clearly flames without a source. It did not contain any of the lunar flame origin. However, they had still tenaciously survived several thousands of years. Without interference, they would continue to exist. The life force of this flames was really strong. Everyone knew the Fire Li sect of the past used the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron and lunar true flames to refine secret weapons. After the ancient era, only the Fire Li sect could still refine secret treasures. It was possibly due to these 2 items. Xiao Chen always had a great interest in refining secret treasures. Natural, he would not give up on the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron and lunar true flames before him. Although they were not the original, they were still very valuable. The only problem was how to preserve the 4 clumps of lunar true flame floating above the cauldron. This was a problem for Xiao Chen. As for the cauldron, he could place it into the universe ring directly. However, Xiao Chen could not store pure energy in the universe ring, that would destroy the balance of the formations inside. He had to refine a magic treasure for storing flames specially. If they were Yang attribute flames, Xiao Chen could use the purple thunder true fire to swallow them up. However, the lunar true flames were extreme yin flames. It was hard for yin and yang to coexist. After thinking for a long time, Xiao Chen extended out his spiritual sense from the sea of consciousness. He would check out the properties of these white flames before making a decision. Xiao Chen turned his spiritual sense into a thin membrane and wrapped it around a flame. Then, he carefully examined its internal structures. However, before Xiao Chen could react, the flame wrapped in his spiritual sense pierced through the blue cloth on his forehead and entered his sea of consciousness between his eyebrows. Within the vast sea of consciousness, a strand of white flame floated quietly beside the scarlet throne. It was the dim white flame. Xiao Chen was astonished. Then, he revealed a joyful expression. He said softly, "Can the sea of consciousness store flames? I should try to summon it out." Xiao Chen closed his eyes and felt for the white flames in his sea of consciousness. With a thought, the flame floated out from the mark between his eyebrows. With another thought from Xiao Chen, the flame returned. This time, because it was not encased in spiritual sense, the blue cloth around his forehead burned in half when the flame pierced through it. It was no longer usable. Naturally, Xiao Chen did not care about such small a matter. He immediately made his move and drew the remaining 3 clumps of white flame into his sea of consciousness. After Xiao Chen collected all of the flames, he took out another strip of blue cloth and wrapped it around his forehead. Boom! Just as Xiao Chen finished wrapping the strip of cloth around his head, a loud shout came from behind him. A stout figure quickly leapt over from behind, punching towards the unprepared Xiao Chen. The fist's wind caused the air to tremble, creating a fierce shockwave. As the fist tore through the air, it gave off a piercing sonic boom. It was so fast that Xiao Chen did not have time to dodge or draw his saber. His expression turned cold, and the bones in his body gave off a crackling sound. He turned and welcomed the punch with one of his own. Bang! The sounds of bones crushing resounded. Wen Yanbin, who made the sneak attack, howled in grief and pain from the ground. His entire right hand had reduced to mush as it lay limp on the ground. When Yanbin was crippled, there was no chance of recovery. He revealed a horrified expression on his pained face. He did not expect his full power strike, 10,000 kilograms of force that had been stored up for a long time and used in a sneak attack, to fail in one move. Just as Wen Yanbin stood and prepared to flee, 2 swords suddenly appeared at his neck. It was Xiao Chen controlling the silver-armored warriors, preventing his escape. "Don't kill me. You destroyed my arm. I am already half a cripple," Wen Yanbin pleaded bitterly. Xiao Chen said coldly, "Cripple your left hand, and you can scram." When Wen Yanbin heard this, he was stunned. If both his arms were crippled, he would turn into complete trash. After cultivating bitterly for 10-odd years, he had to depart from the way of cultivating. When Wen Yanbin saw Xiao Chen's impatient expression, he revealed a resolute look. He circulated his essence to his left arm and severed all the meridians. After Xiao Chen saw this, he ignored Wen Yanbin and indicated the silver-armored warriors to withdraw their swords. Men died for wealth, and birds died for food. From the moment he made the sneak attack, he should have prepared for the worst. Dong! 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 Several cultivators came pouring out of the tunnel Xiao Chen made. They coincidentally saw the crippled Wen Yanbin. They revealed astonished expressions in their eyes. Why are Wen Yanbin's arms crippled? It looks like he crippled his left arm of his own volition. He was one of the experts of the Dongming province. Who pushed him into such a state? Look at the injuries of his right arm. It is clearly a result of competing in strength. His opponent's strength completely suppressed his own. Who in the world is this strong? When they cast their gazes on Xiao Chen, they all stopped talking. The answer was now clear. I have to remove the Dragon Phoenix cauldron quickly. Otherwise, when Duan Muqing and the others arrive, it will be difficult to snatch. There are still complete secret treasures on the ground. There is quite a number of them. We have struck it rich. Ha ha. That thing in the middle looks like the dragon phoenix cauldron. That has the highest value. It is a necessary item for refining secret treasures. After a while, the crowd discovered the situation in the refinery. They all shouted excitedly. They managed to find a significant number of complete secret treasures in the pile of damaged secret treasures. It was normally difficult to find a complete secret treasure. Yet, they managed to find so many here. A few people rushed towards the Dragon Phoenix cauldron without hesitation. When Xiao Chen saw the situation, his expression changed. He pushed off the ground gently and landed firmly on the mouth of the cauldron. Ka Ca. He immediately drew the snow-white lunar shadow saber and released a killing intent. Xiao Chen looked at the crowd expressionlessly. Yi Chen, what are you doing? Get down quickly. You should have already taken the lunar true flames from within the Dragon Phoenix cauldron. Don't be so greedy and think of taking the Dragon Phoenix cauldron as well. Right. Although you are strong, you are definitely not a match for all of us. When the people below saw Xiao Chen standing on the cauldron, they complained. For them to take part in this operation, their strengths were not weak. Wen Yanbin's miserable situation did not scare them away. The crowd was of the opinion that, no matter how strong Xiao Chen was, he would not be a match for all of them at the same time. Don't bother trying to reason with him. Let's attack together and kill this fellow who does not know the immensity of heaven and earth. We can distribute the secret treasures and lunar true flames on him amongst ourselves. The moment those words resounded, several daring people took the lead and attacked. Then, the several outstanding talents on the ground followed. Various resplendent weapon chi and killing chi fired out, surging from every direction. The corner of Xiao Chen's lips curled up into a cold smile. He said in a grave voice, "How reckless. Your strengths are insufficient. No matter how many of you attack, your efforts will be fruitless." Wukui transforms to Qi. Xiao Chen shouted, and an ancient divine Wukui tree appeared from nowhere. It turned into strands of dense purple saber Qi, flying into the surroundings. Dang! 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 The purple saber Qi clashed with the various weapon Qi controlled by the crowd below. Explosion sounds reverberated as the incredibly dense saber Qi shattered most of the weapon Qi. Then, without its might decreasing, it flickered with electricity and fired at the crowd. There were a few strands of weapon Qi that had managed to slip through. Xiao Chen brandished his saber, and a saber light flickered, easily blocking these weapon Qi. Xiao Chen stayed on top of the cauldron without moving. He seemed incredibly at ease. The saber techniques infused with the state were not something these people could block. The horrifyingly dense purple saber Qi immediately threw the group into confusion. The saber Qi broke through the essence shields of a significant number. They suffered deep wounds as blood flowed. Xiao Chen frowned. He could acutely feel, with his spiritual sense, 3 people flying at him from behind. They revealed a killing intent, and their weapons pointed at his back. Qi breaks Wukui. The remnant purple energy in the air gathered on the lunar shadow saber immediately. Xiao Chen spun around and hacked down with his saber with lightning speed. Ka Ca. Ka Ca. Ka Ca. There were 3 crisp, tinkling sounds. Xiao Chen's extremely precise saber strike shattered the weapons of these 3 people. The energy on the saber surged restlessly. Xiao Chen shouted, and the purple saber light exploded. The shockwave threw back the 3. They grew pale as they vomited blood. Xiao Chen held his saber and stood proudly. He had an extremely grave and stern expression on his face as he said indifferently, "You many may take any secret treasure you want from the ground but do not have any designs on the Dragon Phoenix cauldron. Otherwise, you will have to ask my saber for permission." Xiao Chen's incredible saber stunned everyone present. They all stopped what they were doing, and the place fell utterly silent. How arrogant! Hong Yundu, from Nanling Province, want to see exactly how powerful you are, a disdainful voice came from the crowd. A cultivator in white robes, holding a 2.33-meter sword, leapt out from the crowd. Hong Yundu's sword sent out sword lights as he moved through the air. His body seemed ethereal, and his movement was erratic. In a short moment, he sent hundreds of sword lights at Xiao Chen. Clouds appeared beside Hong Yundu. This person had comprehended the state of cloud. It was no wonder his sword technique appeared ethereal. He had a trace of the charm Morong Chong possessed. Xiao Chen's expression did not change. Lightning suddenly appeared around him, illuminating the massive refinery. Occasionally, the electricity gave off crackling sounds. When Xiao Chen looked at the hundreds of sword lights before him, he did not flinch. He guarded himself with his saber and took his time making his move. Initially, Xiao Chen's speed could be clearly seen by the others. However, after a while, the speed slowly increased. Soon, he became so fast they could not even see an afterimage. Dang! 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 The sounds of weapons clashing echoed through the refinery. The crowd could only occasionally see sword chi and saber chi clashing. They created intense explosions, making the air surge. Within the thousands of clouds, Hong Yundu's figure seemed as ethereal and elusive as before. However, an anxious expression started to appear on his face. This was because Hong Yundu had discovered, at an unknown point, that Xiao Chen had taken the combat initiative he initially possessed. Instead, he was the one defending. Hong Yundu's opponent clearly stood in the same spot he started in, he had not even taken a step. However, though he made his move later, he had completely suppressed Hong Yundu's aura. Hong Yundu's opponent's saber grew faster and faster. He felt it was becoming harder to block. Sweat poured down his forehead. His originally ethereal figure started to show weak points. Break! A bright light flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes. He shouted, and a resplendent electric light appeared on his saber. Xiao Chen twisted his waist and thrust his saber forward. The strong energy in the electric light instantly knocked away the sword Hong Yundu used to block. Without losing any power, it easily broke through the opponent's essence shield, leaving a huge wound on Hong Yundu's chest. Hong Yundu cried out miserable and fell from the air. He landed painfully, his face incredibly pale. Nanling Province's Hong Yundu's strength is at the very peak of superior grade martial saint. He is quite famous within the Nanling Province. Yet, he did not even have the strength to force Yi Chen back a step, someone below whispered. We three brothers want this dragon phoenix cauldron. Brat from the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, get down. Three youths stepped in from another corridor of the refinery. The weapons the three of them used were different from each other. The middle one used a sword sheathed at his waist, the left carried a massive saber, and the right actually held a folding fan. These three are the heirs of the imperial capital's Lu clan, they are blood brothers. The Luo clan holds great power in the imperial capital. It looks like they will obtain this dragon phoenix cauldron. However, didn't the three of them chase Chu Chaoyun earlier? Why are they back here? Who knows? Let's just watch in safety while they fight, then reap the rewards when both sides are exhausted. In Yi Chen's previous fight, he must have used his full power for sure. He should have exhausted a significant amount of his essence. The three Luo clan brothers quickly stepped forward. When they were about 100 meters from the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron, the third brother, his back facing the crowd, revealed a sinister smile as he said, "The thing I hate the most is someone looking down at me from above. Get down here." After the third brother spoke, he violently kicked the 10-odd meters tall Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. The kick contained a horrifying force as it landed on the cauldron in an instant. A dull gong rang throughout the refinery. Wang! 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 The sound shook everybody's eardrums and reverberated in their ears. The Dragon Phoenix Cauldron trembled unceasingly. However, its 3 legs did not move at all. Instead, the force of this kick rebounded back to the third Luo brother. This caused his leg to go numb. He muttered and said, "That's impossible. My casual kick can break the city walls. How can this broken cauldron remain unmoved?" When the third Luo brother looked at Xiao Chen on the cauldron, he thought to himself, "It must be this fellow's doing." He said ferociously, "Again. I don't believe I cannot kick you down." The third Luo brother shouted and spun 180 degrees. Then he kicked. The wind from this kick caused the air to tremble. Suddenly, Xiao Chen's expression changed, and he raised his right foot. He stomped heavily on the cauldron lid. Rumble. The 3 legs of the dragon phoenix cauldron sank into the floor of the refinery and stuck firmly in the ground. A boundless force immediately struck the surrounding ground, causing the ground to break and fly up around the dragon phoenix cauldron, rushing toward the ceiling. The third Luo brother had just rushed over and did not have the time to act. The force blasted him into the air. Bang! Xiao Chen held the scabbard in his left hand and quickly swung it. The tip of the scabbard pierced through the countless rubble and struck the third Luo brother's chest. The third Luo brother vomited a mouthful of blood and flew back. His complexion was incredibly pale. He suffered severe internal injuries. Third brother. The eldest Luo brother and the second Luo brother exclaimed as they caught the third Luo brother. They had not expected Xiao Chen to injure him heavily in one move. "How dare you injure my third brother? No one can save you today." The 2 of them drew their weapons, and a gust of wind blew as they leapt toward Xiao Chen with blazing killing intent. Wukui shakes the heavens. Xiao Chen could not be bothered to compete with them. He simply executed the killing move of the Wukui saber technique. An ancient divine Wukui tree quickly grew in the air. It was like a lone mountain carrying a tremendous force. It contained Xiao Chen's state of thunder as it soared up before descending. Bang! In front of absolute force, the 2 had no way to resist. The massive tree fell on their heads. Their bodies sank into the rocky floor below them. The berserk lightning attributed essence smashed throughout their bodies, turning their essence chaotic. Xiao Chen had easily defeated the 3 brothers. This caused the crowd, who waited to take advantage of the fight, to feel horrified. The cultivators chasing after Xiao Chen completely gave up on the dragon phoenix cauldron and retreated. Instead, people streamed in from the entrance Duhau had used, challenging him. Xiao Chen did not feel afraid. He protected his front with his saber as he stood proudly. His hair fluttered as he stood on the cauldron and defeated each challenger with a single move. Xiao Chen stood on the dragon phoenix cauldron and held his saber with one hand. He looked at the other outstanding talents in the refinery with an expressionless face. Then, he said indifferently, "I stand by my words. You may do as you wish to the secret treasures on the ground, but I want this dragon phoenix cauldron." There were about 50 or 60 people who came to the Fire Li sect remnants. Aside from the few chasing after Chu Chaoyun, the others had gathered here. The dragon phoenix cauldron was one of the necessary items for refining secret treasures. Standing behind every individual here was a huge power. If they grasped the method of refining secret treasures, it would aid the powers behind them immensely. The dragon phoenix cauldron was especially important to them. This was why people endlessly challenged Xiao Chen. Even though they kept failing, they refused to give up. "It looks like I have to start killing people," Xiao Chen thought to himself. He initially planned to activate the Windwalk shoes the moment he placed the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron in his universe ring. However, Xiao Chen discovered that he could not fit the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron in the universe ring. This made Xiao Chen even more determined to think of a way to remove the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. Secret treasures could be stored in the universe ring. However, if it could not go in, it proved that the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron contained a spatial force, conflicting with the space within the universe ring. This was proof that this dragon phoenix cauldron was very valuable despite it being a fake. Perhaps the legend was real. Damn it. Attack together. I don't believe his essence is inexhaustible. After we kill him, we can decide who obtains this dragon phoenix cauldron, Hong Yundu, previously defeated by Xiao Chen, said furiously. Someone had said a similar thing earlier. The effects were great then, everyone had all rushed forward. However, this time, everyone had witnessed Xiao Chen's strength. Many people beat a retreat, and few answered the call. Xiao Chen's gaze was like lightning. He looked viciously at Hong Yundu. Since you want to kill me, I shall start with you. Hu Kai. Xiao Chen activated the wingwalk shoes and hopped down from the top of the cauldron. His speed instantly reached the speed of sound. He silently merged into the wind and arrived before Hong Yundu instantly. Hong Yundu was startled and quickly tried moving backward. However, Xiao Chen did not give him any chance to do so. He shouted and executed the roaming dragon's 9 transformations. 9 cool breezes blew and Xiao Chen's figure split into 9, surrounding Hong Yundu. Xiao Chen instantly executed the clear wind chop and his killing intent became non-existent. Hong Yundu barely blinked, and suddenly multiple figures of Xiao Chen were surrounding him. Furthermore, he had no idea when, but he could no longer see the lunar shadow saber in his opponent's hand. A cool breeze blew by. Hong Yundu still did not feel any killing intent. Instead, he even felt a certain comfort. However, his heart felt like it was in a deep abyss. Cold sweat ran down his back. Hong Yundu clearly felt that he was in danger, but he could not feel any killing intent. Such a feeling was very strange, making him very confused. He could not think of a countermeasure. Xiao Chen did not give him much time to think. The instant the clear wind chop executed, the 9 figures rushed at Hong Yundu together. 9 ethereal saber lights lit up simultaneously, appearing from nowhere. The killing intent that vanished earlier was pressing on him heavily. Hong Yundu gave it his all and managed to stop 2 strands of saber chi. Then, he quickly brandished his sword and tried to block more. Hu Kai. The other strands of saber chi broke through the essence shield around him, leaving several horrifying wounds on Hong Yundu's chest. Hong Yundu's actions immediately slowed. The 2 strands of saber chi that he managed to stop could no longer be held back. Boom. When the 9 Xiao Chens merged back together, 9 bloody holes appeared on Hong Yundu's chest. Blood spurted out wildly from the holes, but Hong Yundu still maintained his stance. Hong Yundu's eyes were opened wide as he fell over, powerless. It was unsure whether he was alive or dead. The surroundings turned quiet. Some originally restless people stopped having further thoughts about the cauldron. Hong Yundu simply shouted a sentence and Xiao Chen put him in a state where his life status was unknown with one move. This proved that Xiao Chen had been holding back earlier. Now, he had stopped doing so. This was him warning them to not make any reckless moves. However, there were still a few daring people trying to take advantage of the situation to store the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. Unfortunately, they discovered that it conflicted with their spatial rings, and they were not able to store it away. The few of them hardened their hearts and worked together to lift it up. They were prepared to move it out like that. Xiao Chen pushed off the ground and moved just above the ground. With the assistance of the windwalk shoes, he instantly arrived below the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. Xiao Chen simply kicked the cauldron and the huge Dragon Phoenix Cauldron left the hands of those people, smashed towards the ceiling above. When those people saw the situation, they quickly leapt up and tried to reclaim the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. Naturally, Xiao Chen would not give them the opportunity to do so. Xiao Chen moved in the air like he was a flood dragon, flowing around everywhere. Strands of saber chi flew out and interfered with those people. They could only give up on the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron and deal with Xiao Chen's attacks first. Dang. 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 Sounds of weapons clashing rang out non-stop in the air. After a while, several miserable cries were issued. The people who were trying to snatch the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron fell from the sky. Boom. The Dragon Phoenix Cauldron that Xiao Chen kicked away actually broke the ceiling. Large rocks fell continuously from the top. When Xiao Chen looked up, his eyes lit up. There was a crack in the ceiling, revealing an opening. He should take advantage of this opportunity to leave this place. Xiao Chen easily caught the falling Dragon Phoenix Cauldron with one hand. Then, mentally ordered the two silver-armored warriors to leap into the air. When they touched the universe ring, the two combat puppets were stored within it. Everything was ready. Just as Xiao Chen was prepared to leave, Duan Muqing, Ji Changkong, and the rest arrived at the refinery. When Ji Changkong and the rest saw the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron in Xiao Chen's hands, they shouted excitedly, "Dragon Phoenix Cauldron! It really is the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. In that case, leave it behind for me." The group of people leapt off the ground and rushed at Xiao Chen without hesitation. Xiao Chen's face sank. The strength of these cultivators could not be compared to the earlier ones. Each and every one of them had comprehended a state. Their talents and cultivation were classified as demonic. They were geniuses amongst geniuses. Anywhere they went in the Great Qin nation, they would stand out. However, when Xiao Chen saw that Chu Chaoyun was not there, he relaxed a little. Otherwise, he would definitely lose this Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. A ferocious flame started burning within Xiao Chen's right eye as he watched these people with blazing auras. He shouted, and a ferocious purple flame spewed out. After that, Xiao Chen ignored them. If the purple thunder true fire was not concentrated, it would not be able to injure them. However, there should be no problems with obstructing them for just a moment. Xiao Chen manipulated the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron with his right hand and spun it around. Then he smashed it against the ceiling violently. Bang! Xiao Chen smashed the ceiling with his full strength. The crack that was opened earlier now revealed a large opening. He held onto the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron as he quickly went through it. Chase! We can't let him escape. Chu Chaoyun already took away the manual for refining secret treasures. If this fellow takes away the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron, we will end up with nothing. The group did what they could to put out the purple flames unleashed on them. When they saw Xiao Chen escaping, they quickly chased after him. When Duan Muqing and the others arrived, they completely killed off the intentions of the others to compete for the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. Even if they could kill Xiao Chen, there was still Duan Muqing, Ji Changkong, and the others. They were as strong as Xiao Chen. To them, there were no more opportunities. They might as well set their sights on the pile of secret treasures on the ground. If they could find a few complete secret treasures, then they would have earned a lot on this operation. Xiao Chen took out the map and discovered he was only about a kilometer away from the main hall. Of course, that was as the crow flies. After Xiao Chen verified the direction, he raised the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron and prepared to smash his way through, moving in a straight line. Bang! 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 Xiao Chen easily smashed through the walls in his way, allowing him to proceed forward quickly. The Windwalk shoes were activated and Xiao Chen executed the Azure Dragon Cloud soaring art to the limit as he dodged the attacks sent at him by the people behind him. Because he was holding the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron, he had no way to shake off the people behind him. Yi Chen, quickly put down the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. Otherwise, even if you can get out, the Duanmu clan's profound ice palace will not bring you out. The Dragon Phoenix Cauldron is useless to you. Hand it over to me and I will make an exchange for it. I will not let you suffer a disadvantage. The group felt astonished when they saw Xiao Chen running so fast even though he was holding the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. Given the huge size of the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron, it had to be at least 500 kilograms. However, Xiao Chen was able to lift it up like it was merely a block of wood. Not only did it look light, Xiao Chen's speed did not decrease and he was still able to dodge attacks. The group was unable to do anything against him, so they were forced to use psychological means. Xiao Chen found it funny. He did not need the Duanmu clan's profound ice palace. He was fully capable of leaving the Ink Mountain range by himself. The Dragon Phoenix Cauldron was very important to Xiao Chen. Not only it was related to the secrets of refining secret treasures, he had to rely on this Dragon Phoenix Cauldron to completely restore some of the damaged secret treasures he had. He had placed his hopes on this Dragon Phoenix Cauldron, and so he had no reason to give it up. Xiao Chen swallowed a qi returning pill and then used the cauldron to smash apart the wall in front of him again. After that, he continued moving forward. After a few minutes, not only had the people behind not managed to draw closer to Xiao Chen, the distance between them grew larger instead. With a heaven-ranked movement technique in the windwalk shoes, Xiao Chen's speed was very fast. Within the same generation, if one had not learned a heaven-ranked movement technique, one would have to have comprehended the state of wind to great perfection in order to catch him. It was clear that no one behind Xiao Chen had any of those. Left behind by him was only a matter of time. After some time, Xiao Chen could no longer hear anything from behind him. He had already arrived at the main hall. As long as he could cross the door, he would be able to leave safely. Xiao Chen could not help but allow a faint smile to appear on his face. However, the moment he walked out of the bronze doors, the smile on his face froze. At the exit before him, there was a golden combat puppet. It was holding a gold sword and its aura was surging. This was the aura of a peak inferior grade martial king. Standing beside the gold-armored warrior was Chu Chaoyun, dressed in sky-blue robes with a sword hanging on his back. He smiled at Xiao Chen and said, "Just put down the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron and you may go. I will give you 1,000 medial-grade spirit stones." Xiao Chen slowly placed the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron down on the ground. He had not expected Chu Chaoyun to be waiting at the exit. It was an excellent move. There was only one way out of the Fire Li sect remnant. Everyone had to go past this place, under where the profound ice flower was, to return to the Ink Forest. Regardless of who obtained the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron, they could not avoid going past this place. After continuous fights and fleeing, their essence would definitely be significantly exhausted. By waiting here, Chu Chaoyun was able to maintain his best state to welcome a weakened opponent. This was a surefire method. Chu Chaoyun muttered to himself for a while before he continued, "I already know how the Fire Li sect refined secret treasures. All that is left is the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron and Lunar True Flames. I am able to get Lunar True Flames. However, the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron is harder to deal with. The originals have already vanished long ago. As for the fakes, including the one in your hand, there are only 3. When Xiao Chen heard this, his eyes were filled with suspicion. He felt that Chu Chaoyun had too detailed an understanding of the Fire Li sect. In the middle of the Tianwu dynasty, the Fire Li sect was destroyed by a mysterious power in one night. No one knew how the flourishing Fire Li sect was destroyed so easily. This was one of the great unresolved mysteries of the continent. What was even stranger was that most information about the Fire Li sect was also wiped out by a mysterious power. Now, all that people understood about the Fire Li sect was passed down by word of mouth. Those were mostly rumors and not much was understood about them. Xiao Chen collected his thoughts and said indifferently, "Give up. I will not hand the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron to you. I am not lacking in medial-grade spirit stones. You are also afraid of Duanmu Qing and the others rushing up behind me. By then, you would not stand a chance anymore, either." One Chu Chaoyun was already very difficult for Xiao Chen to handle. With a gold-armored warrior with the strength of a peak inferior-grade martial king in the picture, it would be difficult for Xiao Chen to defeat his opponent. However, if Xiao Chen were to use the two silver-armored warriors, there would be no problem in delaying them. When Duan Muqing and the others rushed over, there would be many changes to this fight for the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. This was not beneficial to either of them. This was why Chu Chaoyun offered to give Xiao Chen 1,000 medial-grade spirit stone for him to give up. With a thought, the two silver-armored warriors came out from the universe ring. Xiao Chen took out his lunar shadow saber, slowly placing his right hand on the saber hilt. Xiao Chen withdrew all his air and fired a sharp gaze at Chu Chaoyun. Occasionally, purple electricity appeared behind him, giving off ZZ sounds. The state of thunder was quickly raised. This fight between the two of them could not be determined in an instant. There were many variables in this fight for the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. Chu Chaoyun frowned and stared at Xiao Chen. The holy weapon behind him trembled unceasingly. It looked like it would release a large sword light at any moment, illuminating the place. Boom! A fierce golden light was released around the area of the bronze doors. This lit up the dark space dazzlingly bright. Within the golden light, an even more resplendent sword light tore through the obstruction of air and fired at Xiao Chen. The state Chu Chaoyun comprehended is actually the state of light, Xiao Chen thought to himself as he squinted. At the same time, he reacted quickly. The instant the golden light came up, Xiao Chen drew his saber with his right hand. A spark of purple electrical light appeared within the dazzling golden light. The following instant, a crack of thunder roared in the space. The roar of thunder was ear-splitting. The patch of purple electric light behind Xiao Chen slowly forced back the golden light. This turned into a battle of purple light and golden light as the state of thunder and state of light pushed against each other. Keng Chang. When the fight between states came to a standstill, the two of them made a move at the same time. Their movements were as quick as lightning as they moved past each other in the air. Their weapons clashed and sparks flew. Dang! 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 The moment the weapons came in contact with each other, they pulled back. They paused in mid-air for a moment before turning around. They executed sharp attacks. The saber light and sword light clashed against each other in a storm-like fashion. Sparks flew everywhere and shockwaves spread. The strands of weapon chi struck the wall and left deep marks. As the two were fighting, the gold-armored warrior rushed at Xiao Chen with a blazing aura. With a thought, Xiao Chen directed the two silver-armored warriors to block it. Every time Chu Chaoyun made a move, there would be a ray of dazzling golden light. This discomfited Xiao Chen's eyes. Xiao Chen squinted until only slits were left on his face. The strong state of thunder infused in his saber released flickering bolts of electricity that made wild crackling sounds. The instant their weapons clashed, the attacking electricity flowed through Chu Chaoyun's sword into his body. He felt some mild yet sharp pains when this happened. After several exchanges, his right sword hand actually started to turn numb. Bang! 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 The two moved faster and faster. Soon, only vague figures could be seen in the air. Ferocious winds came from the two without stopping, building into a small tornado. Actually, the two did not put their all into the fight between the states. There were currently too many variables. If they fought to the bitter end, it would only result in Duan Muqing and the others taking advantage of them later. Chu Chaoyun waited for the instant the golden light completely dazzled Xiao Chen's eyes. Then, he would make his move. If he could defeat Xiao Chen in one move, it would save him a lot of energy. Xiao Chen was waiting for the moment his opponent's hand turned completely numb and could no longer hold onto his sword hilt. At that time, he would knock away his opponent's sword and create a path to escape. The golden light and electric light pushed against each other relentlessly, and the sounds of their blades clashed in the air. The two of them were holding on bitterly, not giving way to the other. They were waiting to see who would fall first. Dong. 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 At this moment, heavy footsteps could be heard coming from the hall. Chu Chaoyun glanced over and found that Duan Muqing and the others had arrived. Shoo. Chu Chaoyun withdrew his sword and quickly retreated. The golden light instantly vanished, the state of light was dispersed. Go first, I will leave the dragon phoenix cauldron in your hands first. Naturally, I will come and claim it from you one day. Take care of it for me, Chu Chaoyun said lightheartedly, stepping aside to make way for Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen dispersed the state of thunder and landed in front of the dragon phoenix cauldron. Then, he easily picked it up with one hand, raising it above his head. When Xiao Chen walked past Chu Chaoyun, he said softly, "The things that have landed in my hands do not have the precedence of being lost to others." Just like the golden core in the past, the dragon phoenix cauldron is the same. As Chu Chaoyun watched Xiao Chen's disappearing figure, he shook his head slightly. Then, he spoke in a soft voice only he could hear. After not seeing him for a year, his strength has grown to such a level. The growth rate of the Azure Dragon martial spirit probably far outstrips that person's expectations. Chu Chaoyun, where is Yi Chen? Weren't you fighting with him earlier? Why has he disappeared? Hua Yunfei said urgently as he rushed over. Chu Chaoyun said indifferently, "Sorry, I let him go." When Hua Yunfei saw Chu Chaoyun's indifferent attitude, he became annoyed. He quickly drew his scarlet sword and pointed it at Chu Chaoyun. Chu Chaoyun smiled faintly and the gold-armored warrior took 2 leisurely steps forward. When Hua Yunfei looked at the silent gold-armored warrior, he no longer had the courage to make a move. He snorted coldly and returned his sword to its scabbard. Ji Changkong looked at the exit of the Fire Li sect. Then, he suddenly said something out of the blue. Don't you all feel that he is very similar to a certain person? Although he looks different, his aura is much stronger. That look in his eyes and his brilliance are remarkably similar. The moment Ji Changkong finished speaking, Duan Muqing, Hua Yunfei, and the Gai Marquis exchanged a look with each other. Their gazes were filled with astonishment. The Gai Marquis said, "Let us write down this person's family name at the same time. See if we guessed the same person." The few of them stretched out their hands and started to draw out a Xiao character in the air. After they finished writing, shock appeared on all their faces. Hua Yunfei said coldly, "If we all feel that there is something wrong, then it is likely that it really is. However, there isn't any disguising technique in this world that is so realistic." For them to be the same person, his technique not only had to change his appearance, it had to change his bone structure and his external aura significantly. In the past, Xiao Chen had a grave and stern exterior. His face was sharply defined, like it was carved by a knife. His entire being was like a treasured saber drawn out of its scabbard. His aura was blazing and the edge revealed. However, when they looked at Xiao Chen now, they saw a plain exterior. His aura was withdrawn and there were no signs of it being displayed ostentatiously. He seemed like a completely different person. The Gai Marquis continued, "The most important thing is that I can't believe this person's strength can improve so fast. Don't forget, he was only a superior grade martial master last year. This person is a medial grade martial saint. This is impossible unless he cultivates a heaven-ranked cultivation technique. However, within the Great Qin nation, only the royal courts have a heaven-ranked cultivation technique. He is simply a nobody, how could he possess one?" Ji Changkong glanced at the silent Chu Chaoyun. "Chu Chaoyun, you exchanged a few moves with him. What do you think?" Chu Chaoyun smiled and said, "Is that important? Naturally, he will come looking for you 2 years later. Don't tell me you are all afraid. Ha ha." 3 days later, Xiao Chen was sitting cross-legged at a desolate area at the periphery of Ink Forest. The dragon phoenix cauldron was placed not far from him. 2 silver-armored warriors guarded the cauldron, standing on 2 sides of it. Xiaobai was quietly seated on top of it. Its intelligent eyes occasionally swept through the surroundings, helping Xiao Chen to watch for dangers. After some time, Xiao Chen stopped cultivating and opened his eyes. 2 beams of light came from his eyes as he gently exhaled. The beams of light were long and continuous, like a long sharp arrow. After they flew for a long time, they still had not dissipated. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and picked up the lunar shadow saber beside him. Then, he walked over to the dragon phoenix cauldron. Xiaobai immediately leapt over to Xiao Chen's shoulder. The dragon phoenix cauldron was 16 meters tall. The 3 legs were 10 meters long and the body of the cauldron was 6 meters high. When Xiao Chen stood underneath it, he seemed very small. Xiao Chen leapt up gently and executed the gravity spell. Then, he slowly flew to the top of the cauldron before looking into it. The cauldron was empty. It was about 5 meters deep. Although one could see the bottom with a single glance, it gave off a limitless impression, like there was a small realm within it. After Xiao Chen left the Fire Li sect remnants, he was not in a rush to leave the Ink Forest. The Duanmu clan's profound ice palace was still standing guard at the exit of the forest. Xiao Chen recalled the terror of the profound ice palace. He would not so foolish as to fall into that net. He had been hiding in the Ink Forest for the past 3 days, killing demonic beasts as he recovered his strength. Xiao Chen handed the dragon phoenix cauldron over to the 2 silver-armored warriors to carry, so it would not affect his pace. When he rested, Xiaobai would help to guard as well. In this Ink Forest where Xiao Chen could not extend out his spiritual sense very far, the normally insignificant Xiaobai became very useful. After dealing with his worries about the consequences, this was an excellent place for Xiao Chen to temper himself, as the spiritual energy here was very thin and there were many ferocious demonic beasts about. Hence, Xiao Chen was not in a hurry to leave. Xiao Chen collected his thoughts and looked at the empty cauldron. Then, he pointed at it and sent out a strand of purple flames. The flames moved around in the cauldron. They became very thin, eventually fading into a small spark. Xiao Chen pointed again and launched another 10 odd strands of purple thunder true fire, exhausting a quarter of his essence. However, the flames still became extremely thin. They could not fill the space within at all. Xiao Chen frowned slightly. He felt suspicious as he said, "How strange. It is clearly just a small space. Logically, the flames should be blazing within it." In the past 3 days, whenever Xiao Chen had time, he would go investigate the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. However, there was no progress. He only knew that the cauldron was infused with many moonstones and was made with peak-grade frost iron. It was even more resilient than a heaven-ranked spirit weapon. Furthermore, the space within the cauldron seemed larger than it looked like, after several experiments. There should some spatial formations carved into it. Xiao Chen pulled his palm back and gathered all the flames within the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron back up. A clump of ferocious purple flames immediately appeared on his palm. Boom! Xiao Chen casually flung his hand forwards. The flames flew through the air, leaving a long purple trail of fire. Everywhere it passed, the trees nearby burned to ashes. After the flames flew for 1,000 meters, they crashed onto the ground and exploded. A purple mushroom-shaped cloud rose from where the flames landed. Roar! Roar! The loud sound startled the surrounding demonic beasts. 2 black-winged demonic wolves emitting a black smoke growled and rushed over. The black-winged demonic wolf was originally a rank 5 spirit beast, the winged wolf. The winged wolf was tall and had 2 bone wings which allowed it low-altitude flight and increased its speed. After the winged wolf was demonized, its attack and speed were increased. Its overall combat prowess doubled and turned it even more savage and terrifying. Xiao Chen looked at the two black-winged demonic wolves and smiled faintly. He stepped forward and stood at the edge of the dragon phoenix cauldron. Then, he slowly placed his right hand on the handle of his saber. Hu Kai. The bone wings on the two black-winged demonic wolf flapped heavily. A strong wind blew and the two black-winged demonic wolf flew up quickly. They opened their huge mouths and their black fangs flashed with a cold light. As their bone wings flapped in the air, it gave off a woo-woo sound. They launched themselves at Xiao Chen. Who? Before Xiao Chen could make a move, Xiao Bai, who was sitting on his shoulder, immediately jumped down. It moved its paws in a fashion that looked like it was weaving the air, and a strong wind immediately blew away a black-winged demonic wolf. The black-winged demonic wolf moved toward them very quickly, but it was blown away at an even faster speed. It tumbled on the ground for several meters before it slowly came to a stop. Just as it got up, it saw a white figure rushing at it quickly. Chi. The white figure was like a beam of light. The light flashed and 5 bleeding wounds appeared on the black-winged demonic wolf's left wing. Black smoke boiled out of it. Xiao Chen gave it a casual glance and ignored it. Over the past few days, he had found out that Xiao Bai was much stronger than he had imagined. It did not even feel any pressure when facing a peak rank 5 demonic beast alone. With the advantage of its speed, it could easily deal with the wolf. The mysterious 9 Heavenly Revolution transformation was an immortal grade cultivation technique. This allowed Xiao Bai's strength to advance to a horrifying level. Ca. There was a flash of light as his right hand quickly drew out the snow-white lunar shadow saber. Xiao Chen jumped down and a saber light flashed. Then he directly chopped off the bone wings of the other black-winged demonic wolf. The black-winged demonic wolf howled painfully. Then it stood up and smashed out with its paw and 5 sharp claws. Each claw was 20 centimeters long and was shaped like a hook. It looked like 5 sharp knives embedded in flesh. The black-winged demonic wolf's paw tore through the air and grabbed at Xiao Chen's head. Those claws would be able to pierce through metal. If that would happen to metal, what more a human head? The consequence of that happening was easy to imagine. Xiao Chen's expression did not change. He merely tilted his body to the side and took a step back with his right leg. He stared at the sharp wolf claws as he swung the scabbard in his left hand up. Dang! The tip of the scabbard immediately struck the palm of the wolf paw. The huge impact caused a small bleeding hole to appear in the resilient paw. It did not pierce through. The defense of this wolf paw is pretty good, Xiao Chen thought to himself. Let's try increasing the amount of strength. Bang! A surge of force came from Xiao Chen's left arm as he pushed forward. The tip of the scabbard immediately pierced through the resilient wolf paw. Feeling the pain, the black-winged demonic wolf's other paw moved at an even faster speed, heading toward Xiao Chen. The force was so great, it even separated the air into 2 parts, leaving a vacuum behind. It seemed even faster than Xiao Chen. The lunar shadow saber lit up with a flickering, resplendent purple light. Then, it chopped off the wolf's entire paw. Bang! Xiao Chen struck the wolf's chest heavily with a flying kick. The black-winged demonic wolf was immediately smashed backward. Ca. 10,000 kilograms of force broke several ribs. The sound of its bones breaking continued non-stop. The black-winged demonic wolf was merely a superior grade rank 5 demonic beast. Xiao Chen was able to defeat such opponents even before he comprehended his state. After Xiao Chen infused holy might into the state, its strength grew tremendously. This made dealing with the wolf even easier. Now, demonic beasts of such strength were only barely able to engage Xiao Chen. Only rank 6 demonic beasts were able to put any pressure on Xiao Chen. In the past few days, Xiao Chen had specially sought out rank 6 demonic beast opponents. The black-winged demonic wolf was still struggling to stand up. Xiao Chen lost his patience to continue dealing with it. The lunar shadow saber left his hand and lit up with crackling electricity. Like a strong bolt of lightning, it stabbed his opponent's chest with a loud rumble. The state of thunder contained within the saber exploded out. The black-winged demonic wolf's huge body was charred by the electricity. Xiao Chen casually waved his hand and the lunar shadow saber flew back into his hand. The instant the lunar shadow saber returned to Xiao Chen, an invisible red light flew out of the black-winged demonic wolf and entered into the throne marked between his eyebrows. The intent to massacre of the black-winged demonic wolf was contained within the red light. The scarlet throne mark flashed and this strand of intent to massacre merged into the scarlet throne in Xiao Chen's sea of consciousness. The red cloud under the throne slowly started to churn. After a while, it stopped. However, it looked like it had not had enough yet. Xiao Chen had seen this happen enough that he was no longer surprised. In the past 3 days, the Scarlet Throne would absorb the intent to massacre from all of the demonic beasts he killed. The stronger the demonic beast, the more red light would fly out. Initially, Xiao Chen was somewhat worried. He was afraid the prior situation of the intent to massacre tearing his body apart would happen again. However, Xiao Chen slowly discovered the intent to massacre accumulated in the throne was relatively small. Compared to the surging and overwhelming intent of before, it was much less. The most important thing was that Xiao Chen had discovered he could control this intent to massacre. With a thought, all the intent to massacre could be infused into his saber technique. This was equivalent to Xiao Chen obtaining another state, a state of massacre. There were only benefits and no drawbacks. Compared to the state of wind, state of mountain, and state of light, such an ethereal state of massacre was even more difficult to comprehend. As far as Xiao Chen knew, even in the Divine Saber camp, where they practiced proving their Tao by killing, only a small number of old experts truly comprehended the state of massacre. However, the amount of intent to massacre in the Scarlet Throne was far too little. When Xiao Chen used it, the effect was not obvious, it was negligible. However, its rate of growth was extremely horrifying. As long as Xiao Chen killed a strong living being, he would accumulate massacre intent endlessly. It would definitely reach a terrifying level in the future. The Scarlet Throne was a secret treasure refined by the ancient Evil King. The Evil King was an apex expert that rivaled Bing Hu. The secret treasure he refined would definitely not be simple. Unfortunately, an unknown party had ripped out the information about the Scarlet Throne. This resulted in Xiao Chen not being able to unravel the deeper secrets behind the Scarlet Throne. Yi-ya! Yi-ya! Xiao Bai cried out unintelligibly, interrupting Xiao Chen's thoughts. He lowered his head to take a look. Xiao Chen saw Xiao Bai dancing around and gesticulating for joy, pointing to the black-winged demonic wolf and claiming credit. The black-winged demonic wolf was laying on the ground covered in injuries and was unable to move. It was on its last breath. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and knew what Xiao Bai wanted. He took out a bottle gourd filled with wine and handed it over. Xiao Bai gave off a joyful cry and revealed a cute smile on its face. Then it received the bottle gourd and leapt up onto the cauldron. Xiao Chen finished off the dying black-winged demonic wolf with a saber strike. A strand of invisible red light came from its corpse and infused into the scarlet crown in his sea of consciousness. Then, Xiao Chen retrieved the 2 black-winged demonic wolf's demonic core. When he turned around, he saw Xiao Bai drinking the wine with gusto. He could not help but smile. Xiao Chen gave orders to the 2 silver-armored warriors to kill anything that got near the Dragon Phoenix cauldron. Then, he prepared to take a walk around. With the 2 silver-armored warriors standing guard, Xiao Chen would be able to detect any movements on the cauldron in an instant. Furthermore, Xiao Bai was there as well. There would not be any problems with leaving the Dragon Phoenix cauldron here. Xiao Bai, stay here. Help me watch the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. Don't run around, alright? Xiao Chen said gently to Xiao Bai. Xiao Bai put down the bottle gourd filled with wine. Its face was flushed red and looked very cute. It balled its paw up into a fist and patted its chest with it, making non-stop, yi-ya, sounds. Xiao Chen understood what it meant. This little fellow was saying it would complete the mission. It would use the bottle gourd to smash anyone who got near to death. Xiao Chen rubbed Xiao Bai's head while smiling. Then, he grasped his lunar shadow saber tightly and left the place. Rank 5 demonic beasts no longer interested Xiao Chen. Only a rank 6 demonic beast was worth fighting. Naturally, to find a rank 6 demonic beast, Xiao Chen had to go deeper. The nearer he was to the core area, the greater his chances of meeting a rank 6 demonic beast. Within the ink forest, where black smoke spiraled out from everything, a world void of daylight, Xiao Chen walked forward cautiously with his saber in hand. The ink forest was not called a place filled with demonic beasts for fun. Every step Xiao Chen took, he had to be wary of demonic beasts attacking him from any direction. They could come from the ground or sky, they could be strange beasts hiding in the air, or even the tree behind Xiao Chen. They would all take advantage of the moment he was careless and swallow him up if they could. This made one feel a great mental pressure, their hearts would be thumping. A weak-willed person would be crushed mentally before his physical body crumbled under such a state. Xiao Chen currently maintained his calm. Along the way, he ran into several demonic beasts' attacks. However, they were all rank 5 demonic beasts. He was not in the mood to fight them. It was more than sufficient to scare them away. For those Xiao Chen could not scare away, he would flee. With his full speed, it was difficult for rank 5 demonic beasts to catch him. After 10 minutes, Xiao Chen stopped and looked around his surroundings. They were completely empty, even the air was still. Xiao Chen felt an uncomfortable feeling rising in his chest, like he had met with a ghost. He felt somewhat nauseous. I am being watched, Xiao Chen thought to himself. He calmed himself and shook off this uncomfortable feeling. There must be a strong demonic beast hidden in the darkness. That demonic beast had targeted Xiao Chen as its prey. Furthermore, it was very skillful at hiding itself. Even when using his perception to the fullest, he could not figure out where the demonic beast was. Xiao Chen stayed cautious and placed his right hand on his saber hilt. His eyes started to wander, looking for the hidden demonic beast. It seemed like time had come to a stop. Xiao Chen did not move as his hand was ready on the saber hilt. The state of thunder was brewing within him. The moment his opponent revealed itself, he would strike out immediately. However, time slowly went by. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 10 minutes, soon, half an hour passed. The expected enemy still did not appear. This demonic beast was extremely crafty, and extremely patient. It knew how to whittle away at its preys while creating great psychological pressure. After a long time passed, Xiao Chen even suspected his own feelings for an instant. Did I make a mistake? Was the hidden demonic beast merely a figment of my imagination and there was nothing in the first place? Xiao Chen wanted to disperse the state of thunder he'd been preparing for so long. However, the moment he wanted to disperse it, the scarlet throne between his eyebrows burst out in red light, making Xiao Chen give up on this thought. The scarlet throne was the secret treasure of the evil king. It will never give a warning for no reason. My perceptions are correct, Xiao Chen thought to himself. Xiao Chen's eyes became calm again. The scarlet throne in his sea of consciousness stopped its activity. Xiao Chen thought, since it wants to compete in regards to patience, then let's see who will make a move first. Who? Suddenly, after another period of time, a cool breeze blew and blew a few fallen leaves on the ground at Xiao Chen. It can no longer resist. Does it want to play a psychological battle? Xiao Chen smiled coldly to himself. He could not feel any killing intent in the cool breeze, so he ignored the few fallen leaves flying at him. Who? After a long time, 4 cool breezes blew on the ground, blowing up a large number of fallen leaves at Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen's heart was as calm as still water, his gaze was extremely peaceful. His right hand, which was still on his saber hilt, did not move, he completely ignored the leaves. Following that, a few cool breezes would blow occasionally. The demonic beast was trying to disrupt Xiao Chen's thoughts and the state of thunder he was brewing. Xiao Chen ignored it again. He did not feel any killing intent. If he made a move, he would only waste his state of thunder. Suddenly, the surroundings turned quiet. The cool breezes pestering Xiao Chen stopped. The strange silence filled this area again. Xiao Chen thought to himself, "It's coming." Boom. Suddenly, a violent tornado blew in an instant. A strong wind howled and picked up all the leaves on the ground. The flying leaves obscured Xiao Chen's vision, blocking out the sky. A horrifying ruthless chi was hidden in the wind as it was launched at Xiao Chen. Rumble. The state of thunder Xiao Chen had been brewing for a long time exploded out in this instant. A purple bolt of lightning fell from the sky like a javelin, piercing through the 9 heavens and tearing through the sky. A long chink immediately appeared in the leaves that filled the space, revealing a black hand hidden in them. Through that chink in the leaves, Xiao Chen saw a huge 4-legged snake that was continuously changing its skin color. There was a huge crown growing on the snake's head, and its slitted eyes were deep red. The skin of the snake kept changing colors. For a moment, it could be the withered yellow of fallen leaves, in another moment, it could be transparent like air. It looked extremely strange. The most surprising thing for Xiao Chen was not this. Instead, it was a snake-type demonic beast growing a crown. The demonic beast was about to grow out a crown. It would take at least 700 years for that to happen. Xiao Chen could not imagine what being 700 years or older would feel like. Xiao Chen's memories of the horrifying scarlet-crowned snake he met in the underground world were still fresh. It was able to smash apart the silver warship with one swing of its tail. If it turned into a demonic beast, its strength would at least double. The chink created by the lightning in the flying leaves slowly mended. The image of the 4-legged crowned snake slowly vanished from Xiao Chen's vision. Ka-ca. The instant the chink in the leaves mended, Xiao Chen immediately drew his lunar shadow saber. A strong wind blew and scattered all the fallen leaves in the area. Countless sparks of electricity moved through the air. When they struck the leaves, they gave off crackling explosion sounds. All the scattered leaves immediately turned into dust. The 4-legged crowned snake hiding within was completely revealed. Xiao Chen shouted and his killing intent locked onto his opponent as he leapt into the air. The saber dances and thunder roars. Breaking out in sudden shock, Wukui shakes the heavens. An ancient divine Wukui tree appeared from nowhere and grew quickly. In the blink of an eye, leaves and branches covered it, holding up the sky. It was like a lone mountain, pressing down with a heavy force. The 4-legged crowned snake was 100 meters long and was as thick as an elephant's legs. When it looked at the Wukui tree descending down on it, it released a scarlet light from its red eyes. The 4-legged crowned snake opened its jaws widely and the surrounding temperature pummeled. A cold light appeared in its mouth. After a while, it burst out in a bright cold light and fired a sharp ice pillar. Kai. When the ice pillar touched the Wukui tree, a layer of frost extended on the surface of it. The Wukui tree, filled with the might of berserk thunder, was actually completely frozen. Xiao Chen's eyes were filled with astonishment. He said, "How could this be? The Wukui saber technique's killing move could be broken by such a method." When two kinds of energy clashed, without one side having overwhelming power, it would result in an intense explosion. For what just happened to occur, there was only one possibility. The opponent's ice-attributed energy far surpassed the lightning-attributed energy Xiao Chen sent out. In regards to quality or quantity, it surpassed Xiao Chen. Otherwise, the Wukui tree would not end up in a state where it could not explode. This four-legged crowned snake has lived for at least 1,000 years, Xiao Chen thought, overwhelmed with shock. It was already on the verge of becoming a spirit, no wonder it was so crafty and patient. Ka-ca. Ka-ca. The frozen Wukui tree started cracking non-stop before shattering into shards of ice and falling with a tinkling sound. Thunderclouds churned in the sky. Xiao Chen watched as the four-legged crowned snake flicked its tongue. He grabbed his saber hilt with two hands and focused. He had never been so nervous before. It was strong, crafty, and cautious. This peak rank 6 demonic beast, which had lived for at least 1,000 years, was significantly stronger than the Scarlet Flame Chief from earlier. Boom. Just as Xiao Chen hesitated on whether to retreat or not, the scarlet throne mark between his eyebrows flickered with a red light. With a shoo sound, the scarlet throne appeared from nowhere. Before Xiao Chen could react, the strip of cloth on his forehead ripped into many pieces. A red cloud appeared from nowhere. It was unknown when, but Xiao Chen was suddenly seated on the scarlet throne. The instant the strip of cloth tore, Xiao Chen's originally delicate and ordinary looks turned demonic. He had snow-white skin and the mark of a scarlet throne on his forehead. His gaze was very deep, making others sink into it without being able to leave. Of course, Xiao Chen was not aware of all this. He used his foot and prodded the red cloud below him. The red cloud was very solid. When he stepped on it, it was like the ground. The appearance of the scarlet throne made Xiao Chen very surprised. He did not know what it wanted. Kai. Kai. As Xiao Chen was feeling doubtful, the scarlet throne he was seated on slowly started to infuse into his flesh. It quickly turned into a sticky scarlet liquid, covering his skin and muscles. It became a scarlet battle armor. The scarlet battle armor covered Xiao Chen completely. There was even a scarlet helmet on his head, protecting every vital part of his body. The strangest thing was that the interior of the battle armor seemed like it was fused with his skin, like it was part of his flesh. The four-legged crowned snake's four legs stomped on the ground. Doubt flashed in its crimson eyes. When it looked at Xiao Chen, who was on the red cloud, its skin started to change color rapidly, blending back into the air. However, it currently did not have the cover of the fallen leaves. When Xiao Chen looked carefully, he could still see a vague silhouette, slowly moving around him. When the battle armor formed by the Scarlet Throne appeared, Xiao Chen felt that his defenses had improved by at least half. Furthermore, his strength and speed were all raised. It was like his body was filled with inexhaustible energy. His overall combat prowess improved by 50%. The secret treasure refined by the ancient evil king is truly unfathomable. However, with the help of this battle armor, my odds of defeating the 1,000-year-old crowned snake should be raised to 50%. Xiao Chen completely abandoned thoughts of retreating. With a 50% chance of victory, he should gamble on it. Xiao Chen shouted and jumped down from the red clouds. He headed for the vague silhouette, rushing toward it quickly. Hu Kai. Suddenly, a huge wind blade appeared from nowhere. The incredibly sharp wind blade sliced the air in half, tearing it apart like cloth with a ripping sound. Marvelous, this fellow actually grasped two attributes. Xiao Chen pushed off the ground and an explosive strength rocketed him off the ground. His body soared more than 100 meters high and he stopped on a huge tree. An instant after Xiao Chen left, before the afterimage he left on the ground could fade away, it was sliced apart by the wind blade. The strength of the berserk wind blade did not decrease, it continued on and hacked the huge tree behind in half. The cut on the tree was as smooth as a pane of glass. This showed the solidity of this wind blade and how pure it was. It flew for more than 1,000 meters before it slowly dissipated. Eventually, it turned into a violent wind and blew many fallen leaves into the distance. Before Xiao Chen could be astonished, a layer of frost quickly extended up the tree underneath him. In the blink of an eye, it arrived at Xiao Chen's feet. Xiao Chen was startled and quickly jumped down. While he was still in the air, a wind blade appeared from nowhere and flew accurately at him. Xiao Chen performed a miserable somersault in the air and landed on the ground. Before he got up, the boundless frost on the ground gave off a cold chi. It turned into circles that gathered toward him quickly. With a quick glance, Xiao Chen saw an icy mist coming from the cold chi on the surrounding ground. The mist occupied everywhere within 1,000 meters around him. There was simply no space for him to move to. How hateful! Xiao Chen could only helplessly leap into the air, not allowing himself to be tangled up with the cold chi. Boom! The instant the cold chi gathered, the surrounding temperature dropped by several hundred degrees. A huge ice pillar burst out of the ground where Xiao Chen was standing earlier, heading in the direction he had jumped. The four-legged crowned snake made a string of attacks, not giving Xiao Chen time to react. Everything seemed to be going as it had planned. The attacks were chained together tightly, trying to force Xiao Chen into a dead end, not allowing him to make a counter-attack. What a crafty thousand-year-old demonic beast! Xiao Chen looked at the ice pillar heading for him. He thought to himself, I can't retreat anymore. Otherwise, the danger would become greater as time passed. Qi breaks Wukui. Xiao Chen shouted and the dark clouds above churned. A bolt of lightning tore through the darkness, raising Xiao Chen's aura. A strand of extremely dense purple saber qi appeared from nowhere. Without conscious thought from Xiao Chen, the remnant intent to massacre within the scarlet armor quickly fused into the saber technique. Ka-ca. Ka-ca. The strength of qi breaks Wukui startled Xiao Chen. It actually managed to easily break the rising ice pillar in half. After the intent to massacre infused into Xiao Chen's qi breaks Wukui, it became like a reforged treasure saber. The sharpness of his saber qi increased by 50%. When Xiao Chen saw the ice pillar split into half and shatter in the air, a boundless killing intent arose in his heart. His gaze was like a weapon filled with killing qi. The killing intent seemed to solidify everywhere his gaze passed, making one feel fear from the heart. Kill. Wukui shakes the heavens. Xiao Chen shouted and executed the Wukui shakes the heavens again. The purple Wukui tree appeared from nowhere and the intent to massacre from the battle armor instantly fused into it. Xiao Chen could see countless lines of red lights like blood vessels flowing on the inside of the huge tree. The huge tree was filled with leaves. After a moment, several scarlet Wukui flowers blossomed. The huge tree supporting the sky turned menacing and horrifying in an instant. It looked incredibly strange. The surrounding cold qi gathered back in the four-legged crowned snake's malevolent mouth. Cold qi turned into a dense ice pillar and shot out. It struck the trunk of the Wukui tree with a loud boom again. The boundless cold qi started moving up from the bottom of the tree, extending everywhere. However, this time, the cold qi only remained on the surface. It could not penetrate the insides of the divine tree. It had no way to completely freeze the Wukui tree. The state that originated from massacre would not allow the ice to break into the inner parts of the Wukui tree. Ka-ca. Ka-ca. After a while, the frost covering the surface of the Wukui tree started cracking and falling down. However, the Wukui tree that contained a huge force was as perfect as it was earlier. Like before, it pressed down violently. Boom. When the divine tree descended, it carried an unceasing torrent of electricity as it violently pressed down on that blurry silhouette. The huge four-legged crowned snake howled in pain. Its figure completely appeared in Xiao Chen's vision. The surface of its skin was covered with flickering electricity. The intent to massacre contained in the electricity broke through the layers of icy defense laid down by the four-legged crowned snake. They were like dead branches on a tree, sliced apart like tofu into tiny pieces. The defense of the four-legged crowned snake was immediately broken. It had to withstand Xiao Chen's move with only its physical body. The four-legged crowned snake's scales exploded apart. Countless droplets of black blood oozed out of its skin. Electricity could still be indistinctly seen flickering in the wounds. It looks like states differed in quality. The state of massacre was clearly stronger than the state of thunder. The interesting thing to note was that it was easier to merge in the state of massacre than his other states. It was able to merge into the state of thunder easily. Does this mean that the merger of different types of states would be easier than merging similar types of states? Such as the merger of the state of wind and state of cloud, or the state of mountain and state of clouds. These kinds of states were that of energy, they were extremely difficult to merge. However, it was easy to merge the state of massacre with an energy-type state. However, it would likely be much more difficult for states similar to the state of massacre, such as the states of destruction, extermination, life, or nature. It looked like the principles and mechanism of states were much more complex than Xiao Chen originally thought. However, this opened him up to a whole new school of thought. However, these thoughts only flashed by in Xiao Chen's mind once. He did not ponder on them deeply. Xiao Chen was currently undergoing a deadly battle. This was clearly not the time to ponder about this. It would be much better to think about it after the fight. The four-legged crowned snake roared angrily when it felt pain. Its forked tongue flickered in and out non-stop. Hu Kai. Xiao Chen only saw a strand of red light flash. The four-legged crowned snake's forked tongue moved like a bolt of lightning. It was so fast, it was hard to react to. Xiao Chen's chest tightened. He quickly dodged to the side, but the forked tongue was simply too fast. It managed to pierce Xiao Chen's chest about 10 centimeters from his heart. A heart-wrenching pain coursed through all of Xiao Chen's nerves. The livid Xiao Chen swung his saber and chopped off the retracting forked tongue. The pain caused the circulation of Xiao Chen's essence to be disrupted. The gravity spell stopped and he fell heavily toward the ground. Who? As Xiao Chen was falling to the ground, the red cloud in the distance flew over and caught him firmly. Xiao Chen did not bother with the pain or take the time be astonished. He simply pulled out the red forked tongue. A horrifying wound immediately appeared on his chest, and blood poured out of it. ZZ. Suddenly, the red battle armor squirmed. The horrifying wound could be seen healing at a rapid pace. Within the blink of an eye, it was completely healed. Even though the wound was healed, Xiao Chen could clearly feel his life force origin drained significantly. Xiao Chen was startled. This throne can actually forcibly use my life force origin to heal wounds. The life force origin, put simply, was the lifespan of a person. The life force used to heal the wound caused Xiao Chen's lifespan to be decreased by about a year. Xiao Chen shook his head and suppressed all these thoughts. After that, he jumped down from the red cloud again. He activated the windwalk shoes and circled the four-legged crowned snake without stopping. With the aid of the state of massacre, Xiao Chen was not at a disadvantage. Sometimes, after he broke his opponent's attack, the electric light would be able to leave wounds on its body. The man and beast started fighting intensely in this forest. Strong winds howled, electric light flickered, frost spread. As time went on, the battlefield became larger. The surrounding trees were crushed into splinters by the shockwaves and energy, flying about in the wind. Bang! 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 The soil on the ground was frozen by the four-legged crowned snake's cold chi, becoming very fragile. When leaves fell on the ground would explode and kick up a large amount of dirt. Wukui blossoms. Xiao Chen grabbed hold on an opportunity and executed the Wukui blossoms. The massacre intent-infused Wukui blossoms resulted in a scarlet flower enveloping Xiao Chen. Bang! 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 The four-legged crowned snake sensed the might of this move. It opened its jaws, sending out sharp wind blades and ice arrows. They struck the surface of the scarlet Wukui flower continuously. Within the flower bud, Xiao Chen's internal organs were jolted, his blood and qi surged. A trickle of blood leaked from the corner of his mouth. However, Xiao Chen held on and continued to circulate essence in his meridians, focusing on executing the Wukui blossoms. Boom! The scarlet flower blossomed. Countless scarlet flower petals scattered through the air. Xiao Chen pushed off the ground. As the scarlet light from the flower petals shone on him, his speed reached 3 times the speed of sound. Xiao Chen moved through the petals that filled the air. This move of Xiao Chen's was infinitely beautiful, like a beam of light flashing. A large bloody hole appeared on the four-legged crowned snake. The berserk force of the lunar shadow saber was running wild within the snake. Bang! Just as the four-legged crowned snake stabilized itself, its huge tail came sweeping through the air. It knocked Xiao Chen back, causing him to vomit some blood. Xiao Chen's pained expression did not have any panic in it. His left hand quickly formed a hand seal and shouted, "Wukui supporting the heavens." The scarlet flower petals that filled the air turned into a scarlet river of flower petals in the air. Then, they poured into the body of the four-legged crowned snake via its fresh injury. In an eye blink, a scarlet Wukui tree grew quickly from the gaping wound. Countless branches of roots extended throughout its body, digging in firmly. The Wukui tree absorbed the life force of the four-legged crowned snake, turning it into nourishment for itself. The divine Wukui tree turned huge in the blink of an eye. Leaves and branches covered it densely. Scarlet Wukui flowers grew on the countless branches, looking tender and beautiful. Xiao Chen pushed off the red clouds and soared higher. A continuous chain of thunderclouds started churning in the sky above. A divine tree grew slowly above Xiao Chen. He muttered to himself, "Let's use this move to end this fight." Wukui breaks the heavens. The instant the divine tree grew completely, an earth-shattering scarlet bolt of lightning tore through the sky. The lunar shadow saber in Xiao Chen's hand released a resplendent scarlet saber light. The scarlet beam of light quickly extended. The four-legged crowned snake was held down by the Wukui tree and was unable to move. A look of despair and horror appeared in its crimson eyes. Die! Suddenly, a red light flashed by the four-legged crowned snake. Only after the red light passed for a long moment, a "pu-si" sound came from its huge body. It was split down the middle. Seemingly endless amounts of black blood fell like rain, followed by shattered organs, falling from the sky to the ground. Xiao Chen executed a perfect Wukui breaks the heavens. The scarlet battle armor on his body started to disconnect from his flesh. After that it slowly wriggled and eventually turned into a scarlet light before returning to his sea of consciousness, turning back into a scarlet throne. The intent to massacre contained within it was too little, it was completely used up by Xiao Chen. Pooh! Xiao Chen fell to the ground, feeling exhausted. After a while, he lay flat on the ground. Fighting with this 1,000-year-old demonic beast was simply too exhausting. Furthermore, there were strong side effects from using the state of massacre. Right now, Xiao Chen's head felt heavy. However, this was not the time to rest. Xiao Chen perked himself up, and quickly got up. Then, he walked to the corpse of the four-legged crowned snake. Hu Kai! Hu Kai! An invisible ball of red light quickly flew into the throne mark between Xiao Chen's eyebrows. The amount of intent to massacre was at least 100 times stronger than what a rank 5 demonic beast possessed. However, it seemed about right. The longer one lived, the more intent to massacre one would have accumulated. Within the sea of consciousness, that scarlet throne was greedily absorbing these intents. In the end, because there was too much red light, it could not help but tremble. After the scarlet throne trembled, Xiao Chen's exhausted body felt a certain comfortable feeling, relaxing him. Xiao Chen sent his spiritual sense into the scarlet throne. Within the small realm inside, a golden deity floated high in the sky. This was the spiritual imprint he had left. In the past, there had been a boundless blood ocean below. Now, it had dried up. Only a small scarlet puddle, about 5 meters in radius, remained. Furthermore, this was after absorbing the intent to massacre of the rank 6,000-year-old demonic snake. Before Xiao Chen arrived, there were only a few drops of fluid. It was even more pitiful. "I'll take things one at a time." Xiao Chen was not in a rush to deal with this. He withdrew his spiritual sense and stared at the demonic snake's corpse. There were many more treasures for him to collect. Xiao Chen extracted the 4-legged crowned snake's demonic core. Then, Xiao Chen took out a sharp knife and removed the demonic snake's scales. These scales changed their color freely. They would be great components for making magic treasures. There was also the gallbladder, the 4 legs, and the crown on its head. They were all valuable. After Xiao Chen packed everything, he found a huge tree to sit under and circulated his energy to recover his essence. After this big fight, Xiao Chen had exhausted himself too much. He had suffered significant internal injuries, especially from the final strike of the snake's tail. That was estimated to be 25,000 kilograms of force that Xiao Chen withstood. If it were not for the scarlet battle armor increasing his defense by 50% and its great recovery abilities, that tail strike would have shattered all of his internal organs. Xiao Chen took out a medial-grade spirit stone and held it in his hand. The purple thunder divine incantation slowly circulated, and the pure spiritual energy in the medial-grade spirit stone poured into the chi whirlpool in his dantian. Fluid from the purple chi whirlpool slowly dripped down. After 12 hours, the essence within the chi whirlpool was finally full. Xiao Chen quickly circulated the purple thunder divine incantation to nourish and heal the injured internal organs. He spent another half-day doing this before he finally cleared away all of the residual injuries. Xiao Chen opened his eyes, and a purple light flashed in them. This made his strangely beautiful and fair face recover its color. He was no longer pale. Xiao Chen stood and looked at the dark sky. Then, he continued on his journey to kill rank 6 demonic beasts. He had seen the might of the state of massacre. Xiao Chen was now even more interested in killing strong demonic beasts. He had to collect a lot more intent to massacre, increasing the strength of his state of massacre. Xiao Chen spent a total of 2 days like that, in the periphery of Ink Forest, before returning to Xiaobai and the silver-armored warriors. During the past 2 days, Xiao Chen successfully killed 20 rank 6 demonic beasts. Undergoing so many high-intensity fights within such short time span had surpassed the load his body could bear. If Xiao Chen continued fighting, it would no longer count as training but destroy his future. The body was the base of everything. There were no changes to the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron and the 2 silver-armored warriors. Throughout the past 2 days, there had been no traces of demonic beasts here. However, when Xiao Chen looked around, he did not see Xiaobai. He felt this was strange. Using the spirit blood jade, he could feel that Xiaobai was within 10 meters. Why could he not see it? Xiao Chen leapt up and arrived at the mouth of the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. When he looked down, he finally saw Xiaobai. He saw Xiaobai within the cauldron jumping continuously. The cauldron's body was only 6 meters high. Why could it not jump out? Doubt filled Xiaobai's cute face. It rubbed its head with its paws, unable to figure out this problem. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and saw the bottle gourd at the side of the cauldron's interior. He immediately guessed what had happened. This fellow must have drunk till it was intoxicated while sitting on top of the cauldron, then fell in. The interior of the cauldron had spatial formations, creating a small realm. Even if it were Xiao Chen who fell in, he would have to spend a lot of effort to escape. How could Xiao Bai do so? When Xiao Bai saw Xiao Chen on the cauldron, its intelligent eyes instantly revealed a joyous look. Then, it looked pitifully at Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen smiled faintly. A flash of light came from the spirit blood jade on his chest and pulled Xiao Bai in. Yi-ya, Yi-ya. Then, Xiao Bai leapt out of the spirit blood jade. It pointed at the dragon phoenix cauldron, crying continuously. It was trying to say, "This cauldron is very scary. It is very bad. I was so afraid." Xiao Chen reprimanded it with a smile. "Less if you dare drink too much in the future. You like drinking too much. Now, you know the consequences of getting drunk. And yet, you still claim that you will protect this cauldron. You can't even protect yourself." Xiao Chen set down the hurt Xiao Bai and descended. He looked for a reasonably large tree and chopped it down. After that, Xiao Chen took out his carving knife and started to carve a vivid and lifelike bird. He gently blew on it, blowing away all the wood shavings. This made the sculpture look even more realistic. "It looks like my carving skills have not worsened. I wonder if the carving I gave Yingyu satisfied her." Xiao Chen smiled as he looked at the sculpture. Then he withdrew his smile and said gravely, "Life bestowal spell." The wooden bird immediately came to life. Xiao Chen controlled it to flap its wings and fly up. After it circled him once, it flew toward the exit of Ink Forest. As long as it was not a sculpture for combat, there were no material requirements. Xiao Chen only wanted to use the bird to scout ahead. Hence, there was no need for him to use spiritual wood. Xiao Chen's spiritual sense was greatly restricted in this forest. However, there were no restrictions on his life bestowal spell. After an hour, the wooden bird flew through the long dark tunnel and came upon the outside scene. The majestic profound ice palace was still in its original spot. There were many cultivators guarding the tunnel entrance. It looked like they had not given up yet. Xiao Chen left an imprint on the wooden bird and controlled it to stop on a wall, holding on with its talons. He muttered to himself, 5 days have passed already, and this group of people has not left yet. However, if they want to compete with my patience, they will be disappointed. Time passed, day by day. Xiao Chen hunted demonic beasts during the day and cultivated his dragon and tiger body sculpting art at night. The spiritual energy here was very sparse. It was not suitable for cultivating the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation. Hence, he could only cultivate his body tempering cultivation technique. Fortunately, the dragon and tiger body sculpting art was only a short way away from small perfection of the 5th layer, dragon tendon tiger bone, pulling mountain and rivers. Xiao Chen might as well make use of this opportunity to make a breakthrough. This meant that Xiao Chen was in even less of a rush. Half a month later, Xiao Chen shouted ferociously. The bones in his body crackled relentlessly. A drawn-out aura rose to the sky, scattering the black smoke surrounding the forest. The dragon and tiger body sculpting art's 4th layer had reached small perfection. Xiao Chen got up and arrived before the dragon phoenix cauldron in one leap. Then, he punched it casually. Bang! The dragon phoenix cauldron gave off a dull ring and trembled. Then it flew horizontally forward. All the trees in its way shattered. After a long time, the cauldron finally landed. The 3 cauldron legs sank 1 meter deep into the ground. Xiao Chen withdrew his fist and said softly, "After reaching small perfection, my strength has raised by 5,000 kilograms. After reaching great perfection, and then peak great perfection, this dragon and tiger body sculpting art should reach consummation. By then, a casual punch should contain 25,000 kilograms of force." A full power punch can reach 50,000 kilograms of force. I will be able to open the remaining 3 acupoints on my right arm. Xiao Chen revealed a joyful expression, his heart filled with anticipation. After that, he used the life bestowal spell to check the situation outside. He discovered the Duanmu clan's huge profound ice palace had already left. It has been at least half a month. It looks like they no longer have the patience to wait. I should go as well. Xiao Chen withdrew his spiritual sense and smiled faintly. Xiao Chen feared there was a trap. So he used the life bestowal spell to fly around to verify that everyone had left. Xiao Chen no longer waited. He ordered the silver-armored warriors to carry the dragon phoenix cauldron. Then, he quickly left this underground forest, returning to the mountain range. Although the air in the mountain range was still turbid, it was much clearer than the air in the underground forest. Xiao Chen took a deep breath and felt a certain comfort in his chest. There were many life-threatening dangers in the skies of Ink Mountain Range. So, Xiao Chen did not dare use the Scarlet Throne or the Silver Warship. The rank 7 demonic beasts that blanketed the skies would tear him apart in an instant. Xiao Chen could only travel back by foot, killing his way through as he walked. I shall just treat this as an experiential training session. Since the ancient times, the strong have always gone through countless trials. Xiao Chen laughed and headed forward with the lunar shadow saber in his hand. Half a month later, a cultivator in sky blue robes appeared at one of the Ink Mountain Range's exit. There was a blue strip of cloth around his forehead and a spirit fox on his shoulder. This youth had a saber girdled at his waist as he slowly walked out. This person was Xiao Chen. He looked somewhat fatigued, but there was still a bright light in his eyes, there was still a certain brilliance present. Xiao Chen stepped out and looked at the sun. He had not seen sunlight for a month. Xiao Chen squinted and smiled faintly. I finally got out. I now know the value of sunlight and fresh air. Including the Ink Forest, Xiao Chen had trained here for a whole month. The intent to massacre collected in the Scarlet Throne had turned into a deep pool of spring water. There was at least 10 times more than before. Of course, it was still incomparable to the initial ocean. The biggest benefit of the dangerous, intense fights during that long period was sharper reaction time. Xiao Chen had also become more flexible with the usage of his martial techniques. The number of demonic cores that Xiao Chen collected was more than what he had collected while in the subspace. There was now a horrifying amount. Xiao Chen counted them. There was more than 1,500 rank 4 demonic core, 1,000 rank 5 demonic core, and 700 rank 6 demonic cores. This was a large fortune. If he exchanged them for spirit stones, he would obtain, at least, 2,000 medial grade spirit stones. With Xiao Chen's current rate of cultivation, he exhausted 1 medial grade spirit stones per day. 2,000 medial grade spirit stones would suffice for 6 years. Even if Xiao Chen had to use more when his cultivation increased, there would definitely be more than enough for 2 years. Currently, he still had more than 5,000 medial grade spirit stones. He could use them to purchase anything he wanted. However, when Xiao Chen looked at the 2 silver-armored warriors carrying the dragon phoenix cauldron behind him, he frowned slightly. He did not know how to deal with the dragon phoenix cauldron for now. The dragon phoenix cauldron could not be stored in the universe ring. It was very large, placing it anywhere else would attract attention. Xiao Chen thought for a while before muttering, "It looks like I can only leave it at a more reputable pawn shop. I remember the merchant association from Feng Feishui's clan runs one. How about I leave it there?" Hu Kai. With a though, the Scarlet Throne came out with a red cloud. This place was still within the Dongming province. The silver warship was quite eye-catching. Xiao Chen was afraid someone might recognize it. So, he could only use the Scarlet Throne. The silver-armored warriors carried the dragon phoenix cauldron and slowly walked to the red cloud. The red cloud was incredibly soft, yet very solid. There was no need to worry about falling. As Xiao Chen took his seat on the throne, he controlled the throne to fly into the sky with full force, heading to Dongming Province's capital city. 2 days later, Xiao Chen quietly landed outside Dongming City late at night. He went into the city first to obtain a large box. After he stored the dragon phoenix cauldron in it, he returned to the city. Bringing a huge box into the city late at night would definitely attract the attention of the city guards. However, it was impossible for ordinary people to see anything special about the dragon phoenix cauldron. Hence, there was no need to worry that the guard would discover anything. Xiao Chen calmly opened the box and showed it to the guards before successfully entering the city. Xiao Chen was not in a hurry to go to the pawn shop. First, he went to an inn and checked into a good room before taking a shower. Xiao Chen completely washed off the fatigue of the past month before sleeping. The next day, Xiao Chen learned of the location of the Feng clan's pawn shop from the waiter. Then, he quietly rushed out with a huge box in the middle of the night. The pawn shop's name was Victorious Chief. As it was late at night, it was already closed. Green steps extended out from the door. There was a pair of fire phoenixes swirling around each other carved on the doors. This was the mark of the Feng Clan Merchant Association. Any place with this mark in the Tianwu continent was the property of the Feng Clan. Xiao Chen slowly walked up the steps and immediately felt several strong auras locking onto him, scanning his entire body, intending to see through everything about him. Dongming City was one of the 4 greatest cities. The Feng clan's pawn shop definitely enjoyed a large amount of business. Dang! 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 Xiao Chen calmly walked to the doors and gently rapped the door knocker while holding the wooden box. Who is it? It is late at night. Why are you not letting us sleep and trying to pawn something? A shop assistant opened the doors and inquired with sleepy eyes. The Victorious Chief pawn shop does not do business at night. If you want to pawn something or store something, please come back tomorrow. TL note. It seems to appear that pawn stores also store things like safe deposit boxes in this world. When he finished speaking, he tried to close the door. Xiao Chen carried the box with one hand and stopped the door from closing with the other. He smiled gently and said, "Not even for big business." That shop assistant said, "Big business? How big?" Xiao Chen smiled without saying anything. He used some strength and forced the doors open. That shop assistant could not withstand the force and was quickly pushed back. He was clearly angered. Xiao Chen let go and the wooden box crashed to the floor. The huge weight of the dragon phoenix cauldron caused the ground to tremble, startling the shop assistant. He was extremely astonished. He did not expect it to be so heavy. This youth lifted such a heavy object with only one hand. The shop assistant, who was about to chase Xiao Chen away, immediately put on a serious expression. His sleepiness vanished and he said, "Young hero, are you here to pawn something or store something?" "Store," Xiao Chen simply said. "As well as buy some things." That shop assistant smiled bitterly. "Unfortunately, our appraiser is already asleep. It is not convenient to wake him up at this time." Xiao Chen casually checked out the hall then sat in the chair leaning against the wall. He took out a medial-grade spirit stone and smiled faintly. "Is it possible now?" When that shop assistant saw the medial-grade spirit stone on the table, a greedy look flashed in his eyes. Within the Feng clan's pawn shop, even a shop assistant would have a valuable discerning eye. Naturally, the shop assistant recognized what it was. It was a medial-grade spirit stone. If exchanged for gold, it would buy him a luxurious life for the rest of his days. The shop assistant held the medial-grade spirit stone and smiled. "Definitely. Definitely. It is not a problem at all. I will call appraiser over now. The moment he made his move, he took out a medial-grade spirit stone. It looks like this will truly be a profitable transaction. If I wake the appraiser up, I won't have to worry about receiving a scolding. As Xiao Chen watched the shop assistant leave, he felt his heart ache. He could only take a loss here. There were too many people watching during the day. He was worried that news would spread. Spending medial-grade spirit stones like that was worth it. In the time to brew a pot of tea, footsteps came from the corridor behind the hall. The shop assistant from before led an old man, quickly rushing in. The old man wore gray robes, his gait was steady, and his gaze was bright. His chi and blood flourished, he did not feel old at all. The old man arrived before Xiao Chen and cupped his hands. He smiled and said, "My humble surname is Huang. I am the chief appraiser of the victorious chief. I have not inquired this young hero's distinguished name yet." People who could take out a medial-grade spirit stone were rare. While the old man spoke, he carefully measured up Xiao Chen. He is a medial-grade martial saint at such a young age. However, this is not considered strange or rare. Such a young man could be considered an outstanding talent, but there were plenty of such people everywhere. However, this old man could feel a dangerous aura coming from this person. This old man had become a peak inferior grade martial king long ago. However, he had spent all of his time focused on the appraisal of antiques and had delayed his cultivation. This young man is very complicated. The old man secretly made this evaluation in his heart. Xiao Chen cupped his hands and smiled. "I don't dare claim to have a distinguished name, just call me Yi Chen. I'm sorry to bother Master Huang, but would you take a look at this item of mine? I would like to store it for some time." TL note. The address master does not really mean much here, it just shows that this person has ownership of certain skills. In China, people from various occupations are addressed as master. Some examples are plumbers, taxi drivers, and mechanics. The principal pawn shops followed for storing items was to charge based on the value of the item. As for how to determine the value of the item, it depended on the judgment and knowledge of the appraiser. Actually, by bringing the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron, Xiao Chen also wanted to see if he could obtain any useful information from the appraiser. Master Huang nodded slightly. Xiao Chen flicked his hand and fired out 4 waves of energy. The wooden box immediately opened on all 4 sides, revealing the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. The dragon and phoenix carved on the cauldron were very vivid. They chased each other eagerly. The cauldron emitted a simple and heavy aura. When the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron appeared before Master Huang, he was immediately stunned. His expression became very grave, his mouth fell ajar. He was so stunned that he stammered, "Dragon, Phoenix Cauldron, it really is one of the 3 fake Dragon Phoenix Cauldrons. How could it be with you?" When Xiao Chen saw the old man's expression change, he thought to himself, "It seems like this will be a good show to watch." Xiao Chen got up and asked, "Old sir recognizes this cauldron?" Master Huang recovered his wits, he knew he had forgotten his manners. He smiled apologetically and said, "The original Dragon Phoenix Cauldron vanished long ago, there are only 3 fakes left in this world. The Feng clan has been searching for this cauldron for thousands of years. I did not expect it to end up in this little brother's hands." A sudden thought appeared in Xiao Chen's heart. Could the Feng clan have already grasped the method for refining secret treasures? Did they have everything except this cauldron? Hero Yi Chen, I shall be presumptuous enough to ask, will you sell this cauldron? If you sell it, the Feng clan will pay any price you ask. Master Huang turned and asked gently. Xiao Chen had spent a lot of effort to obtain this Dragon Phoenix Cauldron. Naturally, he did not intend to sell it. He shook his head and asked, "I'm sorry, I am only storing it, not selling." "What does old sir knows about this?" Will you tell this junior more? A strange look appeared in Master Wang's eyes. He smiled gently and said, I only recognized his cauldron. How could I know any of its secrets? Young Hero Yi thinks too highly of me. Xiao Chen's eyes were very sharp. He could see all of the old man's expressions and knew that the old man refused to tell him on purpose. So, he could not be bothered with it. He said, in that case, never mind, since old sir is not willing to tell me. Give me a price, I intend to store this cauldron here for a year. Master Huang thought for a while before saying, 50,000 inferior grade spirit stones, what do you think? If not, there are other methods as well. You can lend this cauldron to our Feng clan to use, and you may retrieve it at any time. In that case, not only would we not charge you any spirit stones, but we will also pay you 100,000 inferior grade spirit stones per year. Xiao Chen thought for a long moment. After a while, he made a decision. He said, we can do that, but I want to discuss this matter with your young mistress first. Xiao Chen had certain considerations in his heart. Although he had the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron and the Lunar True Fire, he did not know how to refine secret treasures. He might have to keep it for a long time before he could discover any clues. He might as well hand it over to Feng Feishui and trade her for the refining method of secret treasures. After that, he could let them use the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron for a period without charging them. This could be considered as paying back a favor to Feng Feishui. There was another important thing. Actually, Xiao Chen really wanted to meet her. Xiao Chen had the feeling that, after he returned to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, he would leave the Great Qin nation soon. Xiao Chen agreed to Feng Feishui's arrangement, but he did not see her coming to look for him. Instead, she had once sent Princess Ying Yu. Even so, he did not manage to clarify things. Xiao Chen did not know when would he return after leaving the Great Qin nation. He should take advantage of this opportunity to talk properly with Feng Feishui. When Master Huang heard Xiao Chen, he was slightly stunned. He felt like he was in a somewhat difficult position and said, about this, young Hero Yi, the Feng clan runs a huge business. The victorious chief is merely a small portion of it. It would be rude of me to presumptuously invite Miss Feng over. Furthermore, this old me can make the decisions regarding this cauldron. Indeed, the Feng clan's shops were scattered all over the continent. Although the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron was important, there was no need to invite Feng Feishui for this. Furthermore, Feng Feishui moved all over the continent to deal with the Feng clan's businesses. Aside from some specific dates, it would be hard to say where would she be. Given Master Wang's identity, it would be rather difficult for him to invite her over. Master Huang clearly explained all the difficulties involved to Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen thought about it and said, in that case, never mind. I will just deposit this Dragon Phoenix Cauldron here. If you can make arrangements with Feng Feishui, then I will discuss the matter of lending the cauldron to the Feng clan. When Master Huang heard this, his expressions changed. He felt it was incredibly unfortunate. Just as Master Huang was about to say something to persuade him, he suddenly remembered something. A smile filled his face again as he asked in anticipation, young Hero Yi, might I ask, are you the Yi Chen from the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's Qingyan Peak? Xiao Chen felt it was somewhat strange. He nodded and took out his identity token, proving his identity. He asked, what's wrong? Does Master Huang recognize me? Master Huang smiled and said, young Master Yi, don't ask me about that. If you trust my humble self, you can leave the Dragon Phoenix Cauldron here first. If you come here around midnight tomorrow, you should be able to see Miss Feng.